So I recently learned that the Kererū, or New Zealand Wood Pigeon, is actually a keystone species for many of our forest ecosystems. We've actually had Kererū visit this land because we've got a few old Tawa trees, but we'd love to have them visit even more often. So that's why today I'm going to be planting a very unusual plant, one that's not often used in reforestation plantings. But I'm not going to be planting them, I'm going to be sowing the seeds. Today I thought I'd take you along and share three things. So first we'll talk about what is a keystone species, and secondly we'll talk about the importance of the Kererū, and then thirdly, of course, I'll show you what we're sowing. So what is a keystone species? In my simple definition, a keystone species is an animal or a fungi or an insect, any kind of species that is essential for a specific ecosystem to survive and thrive over the long term. So if we're talking about a forest ecosystem, a specific species in that forest ecosystem is required for it to stay a forest over the long term. I've even heard that humans used to be keystone species for many of the ecosystems where we once roamed. However, nowadays it seems like we've lost our way a little bit and we've become the dominant species. And there's quite a big distinction between the two. The dominance that we have is not very good and is not sustaining long-term health of many of the ecosystems that we completely depend on. If we can move back into a keystone species, we'd be taking care of the land a lot more so that the land can take care of us. If we then tie this back to the Kererū, or New Zealand Wood Pigeon, then that means that the Kererū is an essential part of the woodland ecosystems of Aotearoa, New Zealand. And there's one simple reason for that, the fact that it's the only bird species that is still able to gobble up all the big berries that we've got.
Losses to the neck, but now I'm trophied up. I'm saying like bing, bop, boom, 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 bop, bam. The type of shit I'm on, you wouldn't understand. The type of skits I'm on, you wouldn't understand.
And by feeding on those berries, it'll digest the fruit, but the seed will stay intact and it'll it out sometime, somewhere, and help disperse those seeds. We've got Miro, Karaka, Tawa, and a few other species where the berries are so large that the Kererū is the only species that can feed on them. For example, with the Miro and the Tawa, these are canopy species trees. So these are the long-lived species that will grow up to several dozens of meters tall, and they form an integral part of the ecosystem because they are the canopy. So they are the largest layer in the New Zealand forest ecosystem. By having the Kererū dispersing those seeds into new locations and established forests, and also on regenerating sites like this, the Kererū plays an essential role in distributing those seeds and making sure that we've got those canopy species over the long term. So there's three main ways that we can help and make sure that the Kererū comes and visits us more often. The first one is a year-round fruit supply or food supply. That means that we have to protect our remnant species, so the big trees that we talked about, so Tawa, Miro, those ones. If you've got any of the big ones in your projects, you want to protect them at all costs. Make sure that they keep delivering the food that the Kererū needs. Plant for future trees to be available to the Kererū. And also plant more diverse species, those long-lived canopy species that be planted at a later date. Then secondly, you want to make sure that you do predator control, because Kererū is one of the bird species that feels the pressure quite a bit from the introduced predators. So we've got the stoats and the possums and whatnot. And Kererū only lay one egg a season, so they are quite vulnerable to predation. Catchment-wide or project-wide predator trapping is an essential component as well. And then lastly, Kererū can travel quite large distances, so even if you don't have the specific food sources available for them on your site, or if your site's quite small, or if you're not located next to native forests, you can still help by becoming a corridor or creating more corridors in your locality. And you do that by planting the species that they need, and thereby they can kind of jump and fly to the different locations all over, get what they want, get what they need when it's in season and in flower or in fruit, and then thereby over a larger range they still have the availability of the food they need. But for me today, I'm going to focus on one of the specific aspects, which is enriching the current availability of the food, and I'm going to do that by a plant that is not often used in regeneration practices. I'm talking about Karaka. So here's a young plant that was transplanted with a little bit of transplant shock, with the idea in the short term to be able to provide additional food sources to the Kererū. So the Karaka will fruit a lot earlier than, for example, a Tawa or a Miro, even when planted or regenerated naturally. Karaka has a beautiful orange berries, and those are, I believe, edible. However, the kernels are extremely poisonous and will cause paralysis if ingested. I'm not going to lie, I'm too scared to even try the fruits, and that's not what I'm after anyways for today. I want the fruits or the kernels and have enough of them to plant. So that's what we'll get into. I've come out to this ridge, which is less dense at the moment with regards to the plants that are growing here. There is signs of broom and gorse coming up, but there's also quite a bit of grass and a few natives popping up. The main reason being that it's just more easily accessible, so I don't have to wade through meters high broom or gorse. I can just go through basically and stick these Karaka kernels or the seeds into the soil and then see how they go.